Hello and welcome to Dog Day Chess. In this episode, we're going to look at a game that exemplified several important topics in chess, not the least of which include the importance of having the initiative and of involving all of your pieces in an attack. So I'm playing white and I begin with e4, black answers with e5, and then I bring my knight out, and then black brings his d-pawn to d6. This is the Philidor defense. I answer by pushing my d-pawn to d4. This is the main continuation. And black responds by bringing his bishop out, pinning my knight to my queen. So I capture his pawn, and if black were to capture back my pawn, then I'd be able to exchange queens, forcing the black king to move and to forfeit the right to castle. But instead, black captures my knight, and then after I capture back with my queen, the pawn capture happens. So I continue by bringing my bishop out. I'm adding more pressure to f7, and actually there is a mating threat on f7. If I should be allowed to bring my queen to f7, that would be a mate. But black does defend that by bringing the queen out to help defend f7. And now black is threatening to bring the queen to b4, which would fork my bishop and my king. Now I'd be able to answer that by bringing my queen over to c3, block the check, and protect my bishop, but it could get messy because if we exchange queens, then I'll double up a pawn. So I decide not to have to deal with that at all. I just castle. Now black brings his knight out, perhaps planning to castle queenside, and I bring my knight out. Then black moves the h-pawn, and I'm not entirely sure what the purpose of this move was. Maybe black was planning a pawn storm on the king side, but this quiet move allows me to take the initiative. And I do that by bringing my knight up to d5. This attacks the queen and the c7 forking square, which would allow my knight to fork the king and the rook. So black moves the queen out of the knight's attack and defends the forking square. But I decide to capture the c7 pawn anyway, and you'll see why. Because after the queen captures back, my queen can capture f7 with check, forcing the black king to move. So for my knight, I've got two pawns, and black has forfeited the right to castle, and I've got my queen deep in black's position. So I wasn't entirely sure if that was enough compensation, but it seemed like it to me. Now since the black king just moved, it's my move, and I bring my rook out to the open file, pinning the black knight to the king. And this pin actually creates another mating threat, because now my queen could capture the f8 bishop with checkmate. Black responds by bringing his knight out, clearing the g8 square so that the rook can protect the bishop. So I bring my bishop over to e6, adding another attacker to this pinned knight. Now for some reason black answered that by bringing his knight out to d5. I'm not entirely sure why. He might have been expecting my pawn to capture the knight or the bishop to capture the knight, and therefore sacrificing it for the sake of closing off the d file. But of course, my rook can capture that knight and keep the pin on the d7 knight. Black now moves his bishop out to d6, again trying to close off the d file and relieve the pressure on the knight. And I wasn't entirely sure how to continue, but I knew that I could capture this pawn and put pressure on the rook. So that is what I do. I capture the g-pawn, and I'm attacking the rook. The rook moves to f8, protected by the knight. But that protection is a little tenuous because this knight is not a very happy knight at the moment with all the pressure that it's feeling. So at this point I decide to bring yet another piece into the attack. I bring my bishop out, capturing the h-pawn. Black responded by bringing his knight out to f6. I think he was inviting a queen exchange in hopes of taking the edge off of the attack, but moving the knight actually leaves this rook undefended. This bishop is not defending the rook because the bishop is pinned. So I capture the rook with check, and now black's only legal move is to block the check with the knight, which I follow up by bringing my other bishop over to g5, checking again. At this point black resigned, because mate is forced in a couple of moves. All black can do at this point is put his queen in front of the check, which I can answer by capturing the queen with mate. So this game demonstrated quite a few topics that are important in chess. It demonstrated the importance of taking the initiative and keeping the initiative, the importance of using as many pieces as you can in an attack, and the importance of penetrating into your opponent's position, even if it means sacrificing a little bit of material. As always, I hope you learned something from this episode, and thanks for watching.